Ladies and gentlemen, let me know if you can hear me in chat. I'm using a new program. Shout out to Godfather J6. I'm not going to waste your time here if you're just tuning in. We're going to kind of get into this pretty quick. Shout out to Hexcavator here. Morpheus.win in the house. Outstanding. Boom. Okay, here you in YouTube. All good. Cool. So here's what I know. I did this last cycle with my YouTube channel. There's a lot of different things that come out every single cycle in cryptocurrency, and it's extremely important for people who kind of understand this a little bit better to share knowledge, to break it down. Here's what I know. Okay, I know that you guys, you don't have time for crypto. Now, what do I mean by that? You got day jobs. You're working all day. You don't have time to tune in. You don't really know what farms are. Most people don't really know what farms are. They think it's a good thing because it's telling them it's a good thing. But ultimately, you don't really understand. So the purpose of this stream is going to be, I want to break this down for the people who don't have time to understand. Now, there's going to be some people out there, these purists, they're going to say, you missed X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. Guys, I made this very basic. Could I go in depth? Absolutely. Could I tell you the differences between Uniswap V1, V2, V3? Sure. Concentrated liquidity, we'll get a little bit into that, but I don't want to blow your minds. I want you guys to understand what this is. All right. Shout out to Mo. Nice to have you in here. Brian Miles. Everybody in here. That's good. So we'll get into it here. This is, if you guys could see my screens right now, it's so weird for me. Kind of wild looking. Here we go. Titan Farms for Dummies. All right. I'm a dummy. You're a dummy. We can all be dummies together. And hey, listen, if you're not Titan X, doesn't matter. This is awesome to understand what farms are. There's many different iterations of farms, but the bottom line here is farms. The bottom line is farms help ecosystems tremendously, tremendously in so many different ways. A lot of big players look for farms. There's a variety of reasons why they look for farms to get involved in ecosystems. And we'll kind of talk about that. So let's see if this works. Let me press this button. Boom, it works. All right, shout out real quick to some of the future projects that are going to be launching on Titan X. AwesomeX, Ouroboros, Shogun, USDX. We've got Tink now. Tink. Every single time I hear somebody say it, it kind of cracks me up. Felix, Matrix, Lotus, X Wars, WarpX, Alien X, NFT. Dude, guys, a lot of people are showing up. Okay. A lot of people are showing up. These are the projects that are coming out soon. And congratulations to the projects that have made it to market. Titan X, Dragon X, Hyper, Hydra, Helios, Inferno, Volt. Volt's been crushing it. Flux. All these projects, guys. Listen, Blaze, NFT Legends, Baby Dragon X. Guys, you guys are paving the way for everybody. Good work. You took the risk. It looks like it's paying off. And if we continue to work together, then it's going to be really good here. This educational material is brought to you by buildthetech.com and t.me/Morpheus.win. We will teach you the crypto. Here we go. So these screenshots a little bit old. I've been kind of preparing this presentation here for you guys. Unless you're living under a rock, Titan Farms have launched. And everybody's excited. Woo! Crazy, right? It's cool. Now, what is it? How does it actually operate? How does it actually function? All right, let's kind of get in here. Here's a screenshot. If you guys want to know where to go here, the link's in the description, TitanFarms.win. And I'm going to do my best to break this down simple. I don't want to lose you guys. So I'm going to leave out a whole lot, but I'm going to give you a good foundation. And if you look at YouTube streams, people talking about this over the coming days. Things will start to make sense. I'm telling you, it takes a lot of time for this to sink in. So don't worry if you don't pick it up at first. Just keep listening. Literally go grab a notepad and take notes. If there's something that I say that you don't understand, write that question down and then go back and find the answer. You can ask me, DM me, message me, go to the t.me/Morpheus.win Telegram. Dollar Riot, you can come in there, Rags Riches chat. Here we go. So what is yield farming? Yield farming at a basic level, and this is Titan Farms, it's the process of providing liquidity in order to do what? In order to earn fees. Fees and rewards in the form of Tink, which I think is what? Titan Incentive Token? So with Titan Farms, the rewards come from transaction fees or tokens provided by the platform as incentives. The returns in yield farming can vary widely depending on the volume and volatility, and then also the people that are controlling the incentive token, the Tink emissions. So, are you confused yet? Probably. I just lost everybody on this first slide, most likely. Okay. But that's the framework we're going to provide. Now we're going to dig down a little bit deeper and try to make it a little bit more simple for people to understand. Now, mind you, this is live. This is not edited. So if you guys need further clarification, that's the advantage of being live. You can just ask me questions in the chat here. So let's go to school. All right, we're going to break this down in such a way that the common man might be able to understand. Think about Uniswap v3 kind of like a bank. I use the term loosely, but just think about it as your local bank. Except at your local bank, there's no human tellers. Okay, there's not a bank manager. There's not somebody with an office or a cubicle that sits you down and then runs your credit and does all that. This is it's like a bank. A better term would be an exchange. But just think about it as a building. So you've got that idea in your head. So this community bank allows everyone to participate, and it's permissionless. You don't have to ask permission. This community bank allows you to exchange one cryptocurrency for another. Now, for most participants in this bank, you simply go to buy and sell. So think about Uniswap. If you're like a Pulse Chain person, you can think about PulseX. There are big differences between what's going on here and then on PulseX. I'm not going to get into that this stream. If you guys want me to, I will later. I've done videos on PulseX in the past, so you can kind of comb through my videos. But for most participants, you simply go to buy and sell. For others, and this is where farms come into play. For others who want to make fees. Now, you go to the bank, and let's say you do some sort of common transaction, they charge a fee, right? So they'll transfer the money for you, but they're gonna charge a certain percentage, 0.5%, 1%, 2%, 3%, whatever the case may be. So the bank is doing that action, and then they are charging a fee. The bank keeps that fee. And with this bank, with this decentralized bank or decentralized exchange, you're actually able to earn the fees. You're the person that earns the fees. There is no middleman per se. Okay. I guess technically you could think about a farm as a sort of a middleman. It does make everybody's life easier, but there's no human involved in the middle. All right. So let's keep going here. Here's our bank. Created one animation for this whole thing. Let's see it again. There's the animation. There's a bank. All right, let's go. All right. We're going to keep this simple. All right, we're going to bring this down to cryptocurrency here. You've got TitanX on one side. You've got your bank in the middle, or exchange, whatever you want to call it. And then you have Hydra on this side. Okay, and now these are the people. See this green arrow? These are the small amount of people typically that actually add liquidity or add assets to the bank. Now, why do they do that? Well, think about this. Let's say you've got, and I used this terminology in the past. Let's say that there's two countries and they're separated by a vast body of water. One country produces a ton of Hershey Kisses. Okay? The other country produces a ton of apples. Now, the Hershey Kisses people, man, they're tired of Hershey Kisses. They don't want any more. Okay? They eat chocolate every day. They're just tired of it. And then the people who produce apples, they got these trees, man. They got trees for miles. Like, I don't know, vineyards of trees. It's probably the wrong terminology. But miles and miles and miles, all right? So apples everywhere. Now, this guy over here in Hershey Kiss country, he gets on a boat, okay? And he finds an island in between these two countries. But at the same time, another guy, just randomly, he decided to get in his boat at the same time too, and they meet. Now, in this guy's boat, he has tons of Hershey Kisses. In this guy's boat, he's got tons of apples. And they meet on this island. They're like, hey, you got apples. And the other dude's like, hey, you got Hershey Kisses. He says, let's figure this out. Maybe we can trade. Maybe we can do something like that. So what they do, they start shipping over tons of apples and they start shipping over tons of Hershey Kisses. And here is that island. Okay, we can call this the bank. We can call this the exchange. I think the exchange is probably better. So what happens is you have trade that starts to occur. A bunch of people came in and they provided both sides. They provided a bunch of Hershey Kisses and a bunch of apples. Now here's the problem. Problem is, if they didn't have a lot of apples and Hershey Kisses in the same place, say one big buyer comes over and he says, hey, I want to exchange a bunch of apples for all the Hershey Kisses that you have. Okay, so he exchanges it. Now they're out of Hershey Kisses. No more. All they got is apples. Uh-oh. He takes the Hershey Kisses back. So that's a problem. So we have to come in. We got to get the liquidity thick. Liquidity are these two assets. Hershey Kisses, apples, Titan X, Hydra, whatever, ETH, USDC, any asset. You can also think about these as liquidity pools. Okay, these are pools. These are baskets. These are exchanges on islands, however you want to think about it. I hope that makes sense. All right. So you've got a couple things going on. You have your Titan X. Somebody comes up to this liquidity pool and they say, I want to change my Titan X for Hydra. The first thing that has to happen is somebody has to come in and provide liquidity. They got to provide both sides. Okay? They got to provide both sides. Well, they don't have to in V3, but you need both sides thick in order to facilitate transactions. So they come in here, they put their Titan X in, however many Titan X they want for, however many Dragon X that it's showing. So that transaction goes through. The people down here who facilitated that transaction, they're going to get the protocol fee that's built in. So they provided the assets for people to be able to trade in and out of. If somebody comes in and puts Titan X in and takes Dragon X out, what does that mean? It means you have a little bit more Titan X now and a little less Dragon X. That means the price of Dragon X relative to Titan X has increased. You guys understand how that works? Guy has Titan X. He comes in, he puts Titan X into the pool, and he takes Hydra out. So now that means there's less Hydra, there's more Titan X. That means the ratio of Titan X to Hydra, Hydra's more rare at this point. So what that also means is these people who provided liquidity for that trade, they're going to have more Titan X now, and they're going to have less Hydra. But they got the fees for it. They got the fees for that transaction. Okay? So, again, if you have questions, just ask. I want you guys to get this basic concept here. And once we have this down, we can build to the next part. We'll get to Titan Farms, but we need this knowledge here. All right. So, here's our basket. Here's our bank. Here's our exchange. Here's our liquidity pool. providing liquidity on Uniswap v3 means that you supply a pair of cryptocurrencies. And it doesn't have to be a pair, but we're just going to use a pair. For v3, we'll use a pair, for example. You're going to supply a pair of cryptocurrencies like TitanX and DragonX to a liquidity pool. This pool is used by people who want to trade between these two cryptocurrencies. Every time someone makes a trade using the pool, they pay a small fee. As a liquidity provider, you're helping to make these trades possible, so you earn a portion of those fees. The more trading activity in your pool, the more fees that you can earn. However, the value of your tokens can change over time, so there's some risk involved, right? Now, we'll get a little bit advanced here. I don't want to break your brains, but you got to remember that there's multiple pools, right? So this can be one basket of two different assets. There's thousands of other assets with different baskets. So let's say you have TitanX and you want to trade into Ethereum, but there's no TitanX Ethereum pool, just for example. But there's a DragonX Ethereum pool. So what you would do, you would take your TitanX, you'd put it in the basket. The system would then take the Hydra that you got, swap it for Ethereum, and then send it back to you. So you can have multi-hops. So the system can route algorithmically through different liquidity pools. If this one doesn't have it, they'll find one that does, and they'll buy and sell, and then send it back to you, bring it back. And it goes to your wallet. So that's pretty interesting. All these people who provided that liquidity get the fees. All right. Now this is ultra geeky. What we're doing next is ultra geeky. If you followed along this far, and you're susceptible to getting your brain wrecked because it's late at night, you worked all day, just don't pay attention to this next slide. It's okay. Like, mute it, turn it off, fast forward. This graphic right here is actually a visual representation of kind of what a liquidity pool is going to look like. Okay, this is visual representation of the liquidity in that pool. So it's the liquidity distribution for Uniswap v3. And I could get even further into this, x times y equals k, all that sort of thing. We're not going to get into that. But for the time being, TitanX is on the left. In the middle here, this is the current price. And you have DragonX on the right. Okay, so the y-axis, the amount of liquidity provided at each price level. All right. So that's the amount here. So you see these bars. These bars represent the amount of TitanX that is stacked near the current price. And then, so you see the higher the bars, the more liquidity there is at those price ranges. You notice how it kind of forms this, you know, it kind of looks like the Devil's Tower, right? And that's because people are incentivized to actually put their liquidity near price. Now, what's cool about that is if most liquidity is stacked near price, then that makes trading in and out of an asset much easier because there's all sorts of liquidity here. If all the liquidity is way out here and price is in the middle, if somebody comes in who's big and they try to buy a bunch of one asset or the other, you're going to really get chopped up by fees. Okay. So, in Uniswap v3, you know, liquidity providers can actually choose specific price ranges. So you notice how there's some liquidity down here. There's very little liquidity down here. People can actually put liquidity in any one of these ranges. They can also put it on an infinite curve as well, which is advantageous for a couple reasons. Advantageous in terms of impermanent loss. That term is going to get thrown around by so many. And a lot of people don't understand impermanent loss. Do I want to get into that? I could, but I'm going to keep it simple here. This is the geekiest slide we'll have right now. So on the left side, you see TitanX liquidity represented by the green token icons. And the liquidity providers have concentrated their TitanX within certain price ranges. Typically, it's around price. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes people are looking to create floors under price or above, ceilings above. On the right side, you're going to see Dragon X liquidity, and that's represented by the purple and gold icons. This distribution shows that more liquidity is available for Dragon X at different price levels compared to Titan X. And the blue shaded areas show the actual liquidity, right? These are stacked up. So the more liquidity there is at a price range, the higher that bar is going to be. So a lot of people are trying to get right around the price because the price moves up a little bit, their liquidity gets used. Price moves down a little bit, their liquidity gets used and they get fees. Or maybe they're trying to get in and out of the market. There's techniques to do that too. You guys have probably heard about that, but we're not going to get into that with this. All right. Keeping it simple. So this basically means that you can trade within the middle of this price range and it'll be kind of easier. You know, let's say the price range is here and here. If you trade in the middle, it's going to be easier because there's more people participating. There's more liquidity in here. Okay, so a market sell or a market buy isn't going to cause price impact or slippage as much as it would out here with thin liquidity. You guys have heard that quite a bit. So it could be trading outside that range. It makes it more hard. It makes it, I guess, harder would be the proper grammar there. More expensive due to less available liquidity. If there's more Titan X liquidity on the left, like in this graphic, you can kind of see that. It means that there are more Titan X tokens available to trade at a lower price level. But on the other hand, if there's more Dragon X liquidity on the right, it means that there are more Dragon X tokens available to trade at a higher price. And when people trade one token for the other, they're adjusting the balance, right? They're going to adjust the balance of liquidity in between the two. Remember, we'll go back to this slide. If I come into this liquidity pool, and this is a visual representation of what I just talked about. If I put a Titan X in and take a Dragon X out, there's going to be less Dragon X now. There's going to be more Titan X. That's all this is saying. Okay. So, pretty interesting stuff here for some people. Some people, not everybody. When people trade one token for the other, they just adjust the balance of liquidity between the two. And if a lot of people buy one asset or the other, it changes those up. Supply and demand, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it's all about. That's, you know, price movement is all about the liquidity pools. It's all about the liquidity pools. There's other things that drive narrative, okay? Like the narrative or the inclination for somebody in their brain to want to hold on to an asset. That can be determined by a strong narrative or future promises, things like that. All right. What can Titan Farms do for you? So this is what's interesting. Titan Farms is going to take everything that we talked about. You know, what happens if you set a range on Uniswap and then it falls out of the range? Like what happens? Well, your liquidity is not used anymore. So what can Titan Farms do for you? They can manage that concentrated liquidity. What do I mean by concentrated liquidity? This is concentrated. You're concentrating it around the prices or around the price where the most activity is, where the price is. That's where liquidity is concentrated around. So essentially users can deposit their crypto into the Titan Farm interface and the interface manages the position for the users. You see how that works? In return for depositing, users can receive an extra incentive token called Tink and receive fees collected when their liquidity is used to connect buyers and sellers. Remember? These guys get the fees. Somebody needs to buy Dragon X. They're giving their Titan X. They're getting Dragon X in return. A little fee is charged on top, and these guys are getting it because they helped facilitate that transaction. All right. Here's some of the farms here. And there's a lot going on here. We've got Dragon X Hydra. You're going to see weird stuff on here that you don't understand. Dragon X Titan X, Tink Titan X, Volt Titan X, Weth Titan X, Hyper Titan X. And you're going to see APRs attached to each of these. So what does the APR mean? What does all of this mean? Shout out, by the way, this educational material is brought to you by Morpheus.win, t.me/MorpheusWin. So you also have information in here, pending Tink rewards, pending fee rewards, liquidity managed by the farm, your position, the weight, which is how much ink per second that this farm is receiving. And then you've got the farm positions that show how much total Dragon X and Hydra are actually in this farm. So what does all this mean? I mean, the 55.9, 74.6, what's this mean? Let's get into that. This graphic shows the Dragon X, and actually, let me do this real quick. Let me make sure that I can see this. Yeah, cool. This graphic shows the Dragon X and Hydra liquidity farm. Now, we saw a bunch of other farms on here, but since we've been doing Dragon X and Hydra this whole time, we'll talk about that. And there's another important thing that I need to point out about it. So this is where users can earn rewards by providing liquidity. So instead of the user going directly to Uniswap and doing all that craziness and trying to figure it out on your own, a farm has been created to allow people to come and deposit their assets, and the farm does the work for you. And you get the fees for the most part. You get the fees that we talked about for providing that liquidity. Now, the fees that you receive, you're going to have a bunch of people that are going to provide liquidity for this pair, Dragon X and Hydra. The fees that you receive are going to be based on the amount of the liquidity that you hold in that pool. Okay? That's important to know. So the APR, 56.3% right now. I'm sure it's changed. The APR is the annual percentage return you could earn from participating in this farm. This is subject to change. Okay, guys, this fluctuates. This section shows your position, okay, the amount of Dragon X and Hydra tokens that you have, that you've contributed, and it shows the farm's total liquidity, which is what everybody has contributed. Okay, so here's your stuff. This is your position. This is what you put in there. All right. And I'm not going to go too deep into this, but for you guys who understand, these are single-sided liquidity positions. You're going to put in both pairs, and guys, tune me out if this doesn't make sense. Just don't worry about it. But if you provide both pairs, they are single-sided, I believe, infinite. All right. Earn, that's the question of the day. What does earn mean? All right. Now, where is earn here? My screen's so small, I can't freaking find it. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Earn. Earn refers to the pending rewards that you're going to receive in the form of Tink tokens. So why would somebody come and use these farms? Like, what's the purpose? If you can just get you go straight to Uniswap, do this on your own. It's because you get to receive some positive benefits in the form of Tink, okay? Titan incentive token. And that's what kind of makes this good, along with the fees that you're going to receive as well. That's pretty nice. Again, I'm keeping this very simple, folks. Very, very simple. The farm weight we talked about, 16.67%, shows the share of rewards that this farm is getting to others. So what this contract is doing, it's emitting ink token, and I think that is it 1 ink token per second? That was about 31 million per year. So each one of these farms is receiving a certain portion of that constant emission. So some farms are going to receive more, some farms are going to receive less. Now, let me ask you a question. Why, if we go back here, let's go back. Why are some more than others? Anybody answer me that? Why are some more than others? Okay, so whoever's in charge of this is basically indicating that the WETH Titan X pool is more important. Why is that? Well, WETH is a pretty solid asset. It's a very, very thick asset. And the more WETH that we have in the ecosystem, the easier it's going to be to trade in and out of pools. But most importantly, it's going to attract big players. If we can get a really big, a really thick WETH and Titan X pool, that's going to send the bat signal out to cryptocurrency at large. It's the same thing if you're on Pulse Chain. Why do you think those pools are so big? It's because that's what attracts the big players. We're not talking about somebody who has like 50,000, 100,000, 500,000. We're talking about folks who have positions on Ethereum and other places that have millions and millions and millions of dollars. And you want those people to be participating. Create stability in your ecosystem, a healthy ecosystem, right? So that's why you're going to see heavier weights, heavier APR on pools that are determined to be a little bit more important for whatever reason. And there's very obvious reasons, and then there's not obvious reasons. Now, how come we don't have any Tink TitanX pools out yet? Maybe that's changed. I don't think so, though. I don't think enough Tink has been emitted to kind of create these yet. Now, there's some really cool features involved with all this, and we'll kind of talk about that. So yeah, DragonX, 56.3%. Liquidity managed by the farm. So at this point, the DragonX Hydra pool, I think it's over 1 million now, but when I took this screenshot not long ago, about $900,000. That's how much is managed by it. Of that, there's about 446,000 of DragonX, 453,000 of Hydra. And you're going to start to see more of this information populate. You know, the reason my position isn't showing is because I don't have this connected to a wallet that has any money in it. And I don't use it. So that's why. All right. So what is Tink? Okay. This is where it gets interesting. So we've kind of taken you through the whole evolution and we've kind of built up your understanding to this point. What is Tink? For providing liquidity to the platform, users are compensated with the TitanX incentive token. Tink is issued to LPs at a fixed rate of 1 Tink per second. This Tink is distributed to liquidity providers. The longer you keep providing liquidity and the bigger your share, the more Tink you can make. So it's distributed out at 1 Tink per second, but then that emission is split up between the farms, I believe. I'm pretty sure that's right. So it's split up between everybody, but it's weighted. So the farms that are giving higher APR are going to get a bigger portion of that 1 Tink per second. And the longer that you keep providing liquidity and the bigger your share of that pool, the more Tink you can make. So again, I kind of touched on that earlier. And let me minimize this here a little bit. I touched on this earlier, right? Which is, if you're in a farm and you've provided $10 worth of TitanX and Hydra, okay, you're not going to get the same amount of reward quantity-wise as somebody that's providing $50,000 of both sides, right? So your percentage of that pool that you own is going to determine how much of those fees and how much of the Tink that you're going to receive. Does that make sense? So the Tink balance that is attributable to user changes dynamically based on the liquidity that the user has in that pool. It's basically what I just said. The Tink issuance rate cannot be changed. So the amount of Tink that's being emitted can't change. There's no admin keys to alter the Tink emissions. However, different liquidity provider pools can be gauged by the Genesis wallet. So that means that, again, you know, based on what's needed and reacting to the needs of the ecosystem, certain pools can be incentivized stronger than others at any given time. So we don't know what's the method behind the madness. We can guess. I don't know what Jake's thinking. I don't know what Eric's thinking. They can guess, but those things will change. All right. So even though Tink is an emissions token over 31 million per year, there's also some cool things about this. There's some buy and burn stuff going on as well. All right, we'll talk about it in a second. So fees from input tokens. Okay, input. What are input tokens? That's going to be interesting. So fees from input tokens such as ETH, TitanX, DragonX, Hydra, and Hyper are collected from liquidity pools on Uniswap v3. Instead of distributing these fees to liquidity providers, because remember, you're getting fees for trading, and based on your size in that farm, you're going to get the most, the bigger that you are, the more that you're going to receive here, right? So instead of distributing these fees to liquidity providers, they're going to be sent to a buy and burn contract. The contract uses these fees to buy Tink on the open market. After the Tink tokens are purchased, they're burned, which means they're permanently removed from circulation. So here's the interesting. It's an emissions token, right? And everybody says, don't buy an emissions token. Emissions tokens are horrible. But what if there's a buy and burn associated with that emissions token, right? Are people going to be more incentivized to hold on to it or less incentivized? If that supply is actually going down, and if it's burned, there's less supply out there to be put on the market, which creates kind of like a supply and demand type thing. There's probably going to be higher demand. There's definitely going to be higher demand for it if there's a buy and burn. It plays into that narrative too, but also you can kind of change what that demand might be. Well, how can you do that? Well, again, guys, if you go back to this, you see the different APRs, then you can begin to see like, hey, maybe we need more liquidity with Tink and TitanX. So the OA is going to adjust the emissions that are going to that pool. They'll be a little bit higher. So people will say, okay, maybe I'll provide liquidity here. So people can get in and out of it, but other people are getting fees and trading. So these farms are just a really cool way to make things simple for folks, right? So what is an input token? Input tokens are tokens whose fees are harvested to buy and burn Tink and provide fees for the Genesis wallet. So an input token is ETH right now, TitanX, DragonX, Hydra, and Hyper. Okay? So it's very important. Now, what you'll notice here, you've got Volt and TitanX. Out of, pretty sure out of all the farms here, let me just check. Let me scan over here. Checking right now. Yeah, these APRs are wild. You're getting like 56,000%. I remember, yeah, guys. You can get a lot of Tink right now. But yeah, Volt is the only asset on here right now that is not an input token other than Tink. So what that means is, if you're in a DragonX and Hydra pool, if you're providing liquidity for that pool, you're not going to receive the fees, right? Because both of those are input tokens. You will receive the APR in terms of Tink. However, for Volt, you will receive the fees for the Volt side of the trade, not the TitanX side. Now you might say, well, that's crazy. That sucks. I'm not receiving the fees. Well, guys, this is just the launch. There's going to be farms for all sorts. Okay. So, let's say Morpheus launches. Morpheus does really well, has high volume, has some TitanX pools attached to it. That would probably qualify somebody to kind of get in here and create a pool for Morpheus or any of these new tokens that are launching. You want thick liquidity, you want high volume, and you probably want a TitanX pool, at the very least. So right now, the only thing that you're going to get fees on are the Volt side of the Volt TitanX pair. All right. Tink TitanX right now, why is that so high? Well, it's so high because there's just none out there. Nobody's putting it in. They're not pairing it with their TitanX. But that's all going to change. 8,300% for Hyper TitanX, all sorts of cool stuff. I would share the screen right now, guys, but you can just go to TitanFarms.win and check it out. If I share the screen, it'll probably break my whole setup. All right. So the Genesis wallet can enable new input tokens. So they can create a new input token. If there's new stuff in the future, which obviously there is, new input tokens, they can add that to the list. And that means that you won't receive the trading fees for that. I don't think. All this is subject to change. I could be wrong, but this is just my take based on what I've seen so far. So trading fees generated by input tokens are not distributed to users, but sent to the buy and burn contract to burn Tink. The input tokens are ETH, Titan X, Dragon X, Hydra, and Hyper. Now the protocol fees are deducted from input tokens before they are sent to the buy and burn. So not all of these fees from the input tokens go to the buy and burn contract. A certain percentage are sent. Most of them are, but then there's also a certain percentage, which are the protocol fees, that are deducted before they get sent to the buy and burn contract. And those protocol fees are adjustable up to 25%. They're going to be used probably to add new liquidity pairs with new stuff. That would kind of make sense, right? Future development, this and that, this and that. So we went over a lot. Let me check chat here. If I got a chat. Farming education and valuable. Guys, it's so important. Like here's the thing. Everybody gets into cryptocurrency and they just get into it to make money, and they degen out and they get all their money taken away from them, and they learn about leverage and they get all their money taken away from them, and then they join these 2-bit paid groups with people that don't know what they're talking about. There are some that do. Some of those people. And then they lose all their money. But the final boss, and really when you start getting into clear air and you punch through the sound barrier, is when you start understanding the crux of decentralized finance. You start understanding order books. You start understanding liquidity, things like that. Super important. So this is hopefully for some of you, this is going to be a first step towards understanding how liquidity pools work. I would highly suggest, guys, that you maybe once a day, you pull up a YouTube video and just say, how does Uniswap v3 work? And then how do farms work? And there's so many different iterations and things that you can do with farms. This is just one iteration. But guys, I'm here to tell you that this is more significant than you understand. Most of you. I'd say 90% of you don't know what the hell a farm does. And that's not a knock. I just know what happens every cycle. People come in and they want to learn. Let's teach people. And that's okay. All right. So I'm going to create. Here's what I need you to do. I hate to say this because I always say do not like, comment, or subscribe. But if you guys have specific topics that you want me to teach you about, just post in the comments. And I'll try to make a video once a week or so, and teach you guys the basics of this stuff, because it's really cool. It's actually pretty cool. It's kind of nerdy, but it's going to set you so far apart. Let's check here. Yo, Brandon, what's the website to your crypto course? mycryptoclassroom.com. I think it's still up. It might not be. mycryptoclassroom.com. Let's talk bribes. Smash the like. Morpheus.win. Guys, t.me/Morpheus.win. If you just want to know more about crypto, you can just come in there and ask. There's a lot of knowledgeable people. You don't have to buy anything. All right. That's important. I tell people that all the time. Use your communities as a means to be able to teach people and show people. That's important too. Okay. The Mo, I've been on headphones. You're killing it. Thank you. Farming, education, and valuable. This is so good. Thank you, Reddington. Good. Great, guys. Great point, Mo. YouTube videos to constantly educate. Yeah, Mo's been killing it. He's putting himself out there. He's getting ahead of the pack now because he's, when you talk to so many people like he does, you're going to learn so much. And he already knew a good bit just, being around the community that he's around. But now his learning curve is really starting to become parabolic here. It'll be really, really cool to see where Mo is here in a year. He's crushing it. Mello, nice to have you. Good stuff. I think that's it. I'm going to keep it simple here. We're 45 minutes. That flew by. Let me know either on Twitter or in YouTube comments kind of what you would want to hear about. I've also done this for the Pulse Chain people, done this for PulseX. You can go back. I think it's PulseX, maybe PulseX 10,000X, a video a while back. You can check that out. And I go over Uniswap v2. Some of the same concepts are there. This kind of skimmed the surface of Uniswap v3, but it's going to be a good foundation. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from all over the world. My name is Brandon Davis. Check out t.me/Morpheus.win. Can't really say much, but day one is going to be the most important day. And buildthetech.com with any sort of questions that you have about building any sort of custom crypto solutions. Ciao.